Hello and welcome back to today's video. In today's video we're going to cover data types. So this is data types that are available to us and to use in PHP, and we're going to discuss all about them and when you would use what. Okay, so I'm already on my screen here, so what we're going to do is just go ahead and verify that you have, so just go to your terminal here and just make sure you run sudo opt lamp examp start, or whatever your command is to start it on your operating system to start examp, your virtual server. In my case, they are already running, which it'll tell me that right there. But if it's not running, we need Apache and MySQL running. For now, we just need Apache. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do here, I'm going to clear this out. And then I want you guys to navigate to your htdocs directory, wherever that lives on your computer. In my case, it's opt lamp htdocs/php. So I'm already there. If you're not there, go ahead and type cd and then get there, okay, by typing in the correct path. So I'm here. pwd is print working directory, so that's where I'm at now. And let's create a new file. So do touch and do data types.php. Now if we ls, we should have data types and index.php. And in fact, if we go back to our editor here, you could create it here as well. I just like showing you how to do it in a terminal. So go ahead and close this index.php. In this video, we're going to go ahead and work in this data types.php. So let's go ahead and navigate there. So in your browser, go ahead and go to localhost/php, and then go to, instead of index.php, go to data types.php. So here we are with a blank screen, and let's get started and talk about data types. So data types, let's go ahead and cover the most obvious one. Well, first of all, we need to open our PHP tags. So let's open PHP. Let's skip down a few lines here and close our PHP tags. Okay, then what we're going to do is inside of our PHP tags, remember what we did last time with the echo, and then we printed something to the screen. All right, so this is a data type that we have here. This data type right here is a string, okay? And what I can do is I can actually put comments here by doing 2 forward slashes, and we can say this data type is a string data type, okay? Now a string is just what it sounds like. It's a string of characters that are used most often with text, something that we're just going to be kind of printing to the screen, or a name, a person's name could be text, things like that. So that is the string data type. That is pretty basic, and in fact, if we go here and just refresh, you can see printed something to the screen. The next thing I want to do here is let's just go ahead and echo a break tag. We'll just do that right there, just to give ourselves a line break, because now we're going to talk about another data type. So another data type that we have is we have integers. Okay, so integer. Okay, integer. This is numbers, and this is whole numbers. So if you remember math, this is whole numbers. So this would be like something like 5, just the number 5. Okay, it could be 9. It could be 10. It could be 100, 1,110, whatever. As long as it's a whole number, it just doesn't have any decimal places. Okay, so this is an integer. You can use integers for many different things. What we could do, we could actually do math here, and we could do like 5 plus 2,000, okay? And we can actually echo that. So let me save that and refresh here, and we can see that it prints to the screen 2005. So this right here is an integer, and we can do math with integers. You'll learn in the database later that we store a lot of integers for IDs and other things like that. But an integer is just that. It's a number. It's a whole number, and that's considered an integer. Okay, so that is the integer data type. Okay, the next data type that I want to talk about is the float. Okay, so let me go ahead now, and I'm going to go ahead and echo another break tag just to give us a line break here. And actually, maybe I'll show you a different one. We could just do a \n, and that should, if it's in double quotes, that should give us a line break, but we'll try that in a minute. So let's look at the data type for float. Now, a float is short for floating point number, and floating point numbers can also be called doubles, okay? But they're most commonly referred to as floats here, and a float is basically just a decimal, okay? So you could do the same things with it. We could do 34.5, and we can subtract 2.897. Okay, so we can echo that to the screen, and now this is a float data type. And in parentheses, I'm just going to go ahead, and these are just comments, guys. These green things with those don't get interpreted. So anything with here, these are comments for us, and these don't get run in PHP. It just skips these. Okay, so it runs this up to this semicolon, and this is an inline comment. We could also put these comments above this, so like float data type. So we could do both of those. So I guess I'll just leave it like this for now. And so we could do math on decimals. Let's go ahead and refresh and see what we get here. This didn't work for me. Let's see. Backslash. Let's try that. Nope. What am I doing wrong here? Well, poop. I'm just going to use break tags because I need to look that up. Obviously, I just am having a brain fart right now for some reason. But we'll just do that just to make sure these are on separate lines. So you can see that the comments aren't on the screen. They're not being run in PHP. But we have the first line, we remember, is a string. Then we have a integer, which are whole numbers. And then we have our floats, which are decimals. Okay, so another type that we can do is, again, let me just go ahead and echo a break tag here, just to give ourselves a new line. Another data type that we can do, and wow, I don't even know how I typed that right there. That's crazy looking. Data type. Another one that we can use is what's called a Boolean. So this Boolean data type is basically just true or false. Okay, so something's either true or false, and that data type is just listed as that is a Boolean. Okay, it's true or false. And in fact, I think we can actually just echo true. We're going to see a lot more uses. Well, if you echo true, it's going to just put the number 1 to the screen, and if I did false, it's going to echo 0, because loosely, oh, it actually won't echo anything. Okay, so echo acts weird with Booleans, but we're going to learn actually better things to do with Booleans other than echo. And echo doesn't really work that much for us, but one thing we could show you is just if you do var _ dump, and then just dump true right here, okay? And if I do that and refresh, then we can see that it says bool, which is short for Boolean, and inside of there it says true. So we're going to do a lot of evaluations later as we go through this programming course, and we're going to use Booleans all the time, and Booleans will basically be like, if something is true, do this, else, if it's false, do something else, okay? So the true Booleans are used all the time to make decisions, like, is this true? And you can make decisions on that, and I'll show you that a little bit later, but just know that the Boolean data type is just true or false. Okay, a few other data types that we have a data type called, I I guess I'll teach you this one next. There's actually a data type called null. And null is a little bit different. Null can only be null. It literally is just null. Okay, and we're going to learn a little bit about what you would do that for, but null is actually nothing. It's different than zero. It's different than false. It's just nothing. So we're going to learn about variables later, but imagine you have a value, and this value is set to null. That means it doesn't have a value at all. Okay, so null is a special data type that just means absolutely nothing. There's no value set, so it can't be. False is not equal to null. Zero is not equal to null. Nothing else could be equal to null. Null is its own thing, meaning there's no value at all set. Okay, so that's important to know. If you don't understand quite what that is now or why you would use that, don't worry about it. Just understand that that is a data type that's available. Another data type that's available is called an array. Now, an array is a very useful thing. In some languages, an array would be considered a list. So let's say I had a list of colors. And what that could look like, I'm going to just do a var dump here. And inside this var dump, I'm going to type array, and then I'm going to give that opening and closing parentheses. And we're going to learn more about this syntax, but just know that var dump is something that's built into PHP, and so is array. But arrays can be basically a list of a lot of different types, and you can mix and match all these different data types we learned about so far. So you can put stuff in an array or a list. You can put strings in there. You can put integers in there. You can put booleans. You can put floats. You can even put null. And so let's look at what we get back if I say red, white, blue, purple, just some colors here. And let's go back here and refresh. And actually, let me go ahead and do after this other var dump, let's do an echo with a break tag here. And refresh. And now on this new line, it says that we have an array. And this array has 4 elements. We're going to dive deeper into arrays later, so I don't want to get too crazy with arrays. Let me actually look at my syllabus here that I have set up and figure out when we're going to go through arrays. Yeah, we're going to spend a lot of time on arrays, so I'm not going to get too crazy, but just know that an array is a list of things that we can use. Okay, and there's different types of arrays, and we're going to learn all about that later. But for now, just think of an array as a list. Okay, it could be also, some people would call it a dictionary, and we'll talk about all that later. Don't worry about that. I don't want to confuse you, but just know that one data type we can use is an array. Okay, don't want to bore you guys to death, but yeah, one other type of data that we can use other than an array is an object. And objects are a little bit weird, and I don't want to get into it too much now. We're going to talk about objects a lot when we get to our course on object-oriented programming. But an object is basically just a package of information and functionality. Don't worry about it. Yeah, just don't worry about that, okay? And so basically this is all I wanted to kind of talk about for now is these data types. Basically you have strings, you have integers, you have floats, or can also be called doubles. You have booleans, which are just true and false, and we have arrays. And with these data types, you can do a remarkable amount of stuff. Okay, and so it's important to know what type of data you're using and what you're trying to do with that data so that we can have our software understand what that data is and what it might be used for. For example, you can't really use a data type like a string and you do math with a string. You can't like take the string of, like, say we put printed something to the screen here. Well, we can't add that to an integer and say printed something to the screen plus 2005. Okay, it's going to get really confused on what you're trying to do there. Okay, so we can't really do that, but we can do math between two integers, or we can do even math between an integer and a float. But we can't do math with a Boolean or an array. So you just have to keep in mind what you're trying to do, and that will determine how you set up what data type you set up. Now, looking back on these data types really quickly, you'll notice that a string is always in quotes. Okay, whether we're printing out an HTML tag or a sentence or something like that, it's going to be in quotes. Okay, so that is a string. Now, numbers are not in quotes. In fact, if we put these in quotes, let me put this 5 in a quote here, and let's just go ahead and refresh and see what happens. Well, PHP does fix this for us, but you shouldn't do that, okay? Because that's not always guaranteed that it's going to work. But again, if it's just integers, it should not be in quotes. And then it's very clear that this is an integer. It's not to be interpreted as a string of 5, okay? The float is just pretty much the same as an integer, except for it has decimal places, okay? So this is a floating point decimal. It could be called a double as well. And then we have Booleans, which are just true and false. And then we have arrays, which are basically a list. Let me show you just really quick without the var dump here. What we could do is just write the word array, and then we're going to put item 1, and then we're going to do a comma, item 2. And again, we're going to go over arrays later. Don't worry too much about what this is. Another way to write an array, though, with newer versions of PHP is you could just use a opening and closing square bracket. Now that's above your enter key. It's just a square brackets, and you can do the same thing where you say item 1, item 2, and item 3. Okay, so these are two different ways in PHP to write an array. So if I save that and refresh now, we're not doing anything with those arrays. We're not printing them to the screen. We're not doing a var dump on them or anything like that. And I know I haven't taught you what a var dump is or anything, but this is it. So these are the data types that I want you to understand for now. These are different data types that we can use in PHP and also in almost every other programming language. It doesn't have to be PHP. Alright guys, so I hope that makes sense. We're going to do something a little more interesting in the next video, but we had to cover the basics here to show you the different data types, so that when I start spitting out words later like integer and string and all that, you know what I'm talking about. That these are just different data types we can use in our programs that we write in PHP and other programming languages. Alright guys, I will see you in the next video, and we're going to dive into something called variables.